What's up, guys? Okay, so I'm going to talk about Vince McMahon and this huge lawsuit that's going on. Um, and it's just a mess. And I'm going to talk about some facts first, and then my opinion on the whole thing. So basically, everybody should know Vince McMahon, even in the fitness industry. Ran the WWE, self-made billionaire, just a big, larger than life character. He even would, participate in WWE events, and he was always known as a villain. I mean, I guess he really didn't have to play a good the job. He was just naturally the villain. So the problem here's the issue. So he had a girl that they lived in the same building. She was taking care of her parents. Lost both of her parents, which is extremely difficult. I lost my mom at about 12 years, 10 years ago now or so, and it was really hard. She was one of my best friends, and so the building that she lived in was also the building Vince McMahon lived in. He had multiple properties, but that was like his condo, and so she was used to living a nice life. So when her parents passed away, she lost everything in the bankruptcy with her parents. So she didn't have anything left to her name. She was in a bad spot, met up with Vince because they knew each other from the building. And they got introduced to, I think, by a friend. And she was in a really, really hard place, financially wise, just crushed probably from losing her parents. And then you have Vince McMahon saying basically yeah, we're going to find you a job at WWE, even though she really wasn't qualified at all to do any jobs there. She probably thought like maybe if I work hard enough, I can learn some stuff in the business and, and go from there. But before the job even started, they had certain meetings where, inappropriate things happened. Where as a female, you should understand men and understand those are red flags and run. Anybody knew there were red flags. She knew them too. It's not something you can be like, oh, I don't know if it was or not. So even before the job, she went to Vince. I'll just say Vince, to Vince's condo, and and this is before the job offer or anything. The job actually started. He came out like was in his boxers or boxer briefs or whatever. And she's like, oh my gosh, turns around and he said, no, it's fine. And I think he asked her to help put on his shirt. So I read the whole 67 or 70 legal documents, which took quite a bit to read, about the whole case, right? And breaking the NDAs and all this mess. And so basically, she was really excited. He kind of related to her. So what he was kind of doing was grooming her. He's a billionaire. He's very, very high power. He's used to getting things like, how he wants it. Pretty much everybody at WWE says when Vince wants something, he gets it. You don't say no to Vince. Okay? So you've got this young girl in a really bad spot, needing money really, really bad, needing a job to support herself and probably just not be homeless in the first place, right? And here's a savior, Vince McMahon, this guy that's going to, get her out of this, give her an amazing job. And unfortunately, it was anything but that. Like I said, she wasn't qualified, but they said they were going to find a place for her. Okay, she went to several other meetings with him at his condo beforehand, where each time he took it a step further, basically asking her, hugging her, whispering in her ear, like, so good. Like, that's pretty creepy. All this stuff is already inappropriate. It already has crossed the line. If you get hired by somebody and you go to their place and they come out in their underwear, that's probably a sign that, okay, if this is happening now, what's going to happen when I have the job and he's hanging this over my head and basically knows I need him and dependent on him? So you got like a groomer, Vince, and you got a girl that's probably, has done this before, got some money out of men. And it's, I see stuff on both sides not okay, right? So, anyways, before she starts working again, she comes over to finalize and talk about the job and all that stuff, and he's asking her to lay down in bed with him. Okay, oh gosh, girl, run! Don't get involved with this. There's red flags there, but she's thinking money. I need to make money. I need to survive. There's other ways to survive. You can go wait tables. You can get, there's a lot of different things you can do to make money. But she was looking for, I don't know, an easier way. I'm not really sure. She was an attractive lady. And, Vince was trying to, she said she had her legs crossed and Vince was trying to make moves. And she was uncomfortable, kind of saying no. Another time he tried to kiss her, and she kissed him on the cheek. And he's like, "That's not what I meant," and just stuff like that. It just kept progressing each time. He was trying to confide in her about his young upbringing, how a lot of abuse was involved, and kind of go back and forth with her to kind of relate. And he was totally inappropriate from the beginning. She should have ran, but she didn't. She stayed, and we'll go from there. So she stayed and eventually gets this job. It starts getting worse and worse and worse, and eventually she's hooking up with him. And when at first, she was saying, "Hey, I do not want this to happen. Think about what you're doing. I don't want this to ruin my job." He assured her, nothing's you have to worry about. This can be all kept private. And Vince is in his 70s at this time, right? He's in his 70s. But in his past, there's been so many different cases where women have said stuff. Okay, so a lot of times you have to take that with a grain of salt. There's a lot of women that do false reports all the time. And that's a huge issue in the world and in the legal system and all that, is girls making up stories. They do it. It happens. But some girls are actually victims. We got to look at the whole picture here. So it starts. I'm gonna try to be a little more vague. A lot of people go way into more depth to it, to actually the legal papers, reading over everything. So I watched a couple attorneys that done it. We'll kind of watch their stuff, and basically, it's not only consensual between them, and all this is consensual. And to some points, she says it's not, until he starts getting other men involved. He has a fetish with having other men involved with them. Mr. Laurinaitis was a wrestler and involved in the business, and there's all these other people come into play, his physical therapist and the tech crew. So eventually he started having three-ways with Mr. Laurinaitis and her. And it became a regular thing, and she voiced her opinion that she did not want to do this, but he said everything was okay, assured her everything's okay. And at this point, she's like, "If I don't do this, I'm gonna lose this job." Vince owns everything. He's the boss of everything. He owns a legal team. He has doctors underneath him, physical therapists. He's a billionaire. That kind of power is scary sometimes. And so she went through with a lot of these things, and they started getting, other wrestlers involved, some unknown wrestlers, supposedly some big names were involved. And then it gets to the point where Vince is actually in a three-way one time, and he's taking a dump on her head during this, okay? That's just a little too much. And I'll go over some stuff in my life and wild stuff, but that's just gross. And when he did that, the other person involved in the act kept going on for another hour. Vince went to rinse off, then he came back and resumed while she still had all his feces in her hair and on her face. Ugh, that's really, really gross. But listen, this is still consensual. She's not screaming, fighting. She's not saying rape. None of this stuff. And she's still going to the job, and everything is just going on. And it's at this point, it's consensual. She's consenting to all this. She's not going to the police for rape or this, running away, screaming. This is consensual. That's the problem. So it eventually escalates where it gets to the point where she's getting harmed from their encounters with massive toys that's making her bleed and making her have injuries, making her have gastro problems, throwing up all the time, nauseous by having things in every place possible. And Vince is really obsessed with big black, being in every hole of her body. The text messages, you can go Google and read them, the leaked text messages, and they're pretty graphic, okay? It's just a little too much, and the guy is taking advantage of her. But she's letting him take advantage of her. I mean, she's letting it happen. At any point, she should have said, no, I'm done. I can go make money elsewhere. I think she started at getting paid at $75,000 a year too, which is not enough money for what she's having to endure. She said at the office, she was left with no work. She was bored. It was even hard for her to act like she was working because there was literally no work for her to do. Vince hired her basically to be his own personal rag doll and sex doll, and that's what she is doing. Eventually, when you do things, I don't know what kind of morals she has. I don't know the girl, but Miss Grant. But eventually, when you're selling your body for money and doing all these horrible acts, you're eventually going to start feeling bad about yourself. That's just psychology. If you see a lot of the porn stars and how long they last in the industry, what depression problems they have, what suicidal tendencies they have, it's not healthy participating in all the giving your body away to everybody. It's whatever how you view sex. I think it should be between two people. That's consensual. And my beliefs don't really matter in the whole fact. I think if I could go back to when I was in my early years, I would have not hooked up with most all the girls I hooked up with. At one time, I was seeing 5 or 6 girls at one time, and one girl would come, another girl would come, leave and come, and leave and come. And I look back on it, it's not something I was proud of. I was in a part of my life that I was just really on it, women wise. I didn't have to take advantage of anybody. That's the thing. These women, it was all very consensual. They were into everything. Nothing was happening going dumps on people's heads or anything like that. But I understand women and all that, but Vince he went above and beyond, and and then it got into where he was actually, hitting her during the acts and saying, hey, that my left and right really, punch really messed you up tonight, huh? Saying his blows, punching her, slapping her, open hand, whatever, closed hand. He started being very, very physical to her during these acts too, degrading her, hurting her, just in all different ways, and having all these people involved. Then he was showing videos to the tech crew and all these other people, which if he's so worried about people finding out, why is he showing everybody? Why are you showing everybody? And what she should understand is she's not the only girl he's doing this with. This is going on with multiple women. She's just the only one that has come out so far, right? And they said there's a bunch of other women too. They'll always say that in certain cases where they're trying to build up a huge case. And this isn't criminal yet. There's trafficking stuff going on. There's assault stuff going on. But none of this is turned into criminal charges yet. Will it? It could, yeah. The attorney's office could go after him. But the problem is a lot of it is consensual. That's the problem. And it got to a point where she was saying, and you got to understand, when you're reading this stuff, a lot of it she's just saying. Could it have never happened? Absolutely. Did it happen? Maybe. We don't know. This is what court is for and all the other stuff. And so at one point she said she just couldn't take it anymore. She crawled up in a ball and was like crying and just scared and told him he was scared, and they just kept going, right? And that's the point where that's not okay. You know, it's not consensual anymore, where she's crying and saying, please stop, I'm hurt. And they're just still just forcing themselves. You know, you know, forcing yourself on someone, that word, obviously the R word, was happening on a more regular basis. I know a lot of people are into that kind of role playing, but I don't think it was really role playing for her. I'm not really sure. But in the text messages, she's talking back to Vince. Yeah, baby, give me a couple more weeks. I'm really sore down here before I hook up with Mr. Laurinaitis again. And Vince was setting up on a regular basis 3 ways for them to do. He was even telling, you know, superstars that were coming into the business, hey, this girl's in part of your contract. You get to have her, showing videos of her, requesting videos from her. So on his part, it's just super dumb. He's just showing off. I mean, gosh, this guy's in his 70s. You would think you would grow out of this stuff. My wild phase, I grew out of. Obviously, he didn't. He's in his 70s and still doing it. But he does it because he can. And women need money. And a lot of women and people in general do things against maybe their morals because they're wanting to make money. Trust me, there's other ways this girl could have made money. She should have done that. Red flag from the beginning. Do not work for somebody that's answering the door in their underwear or coming out from the closet in their underwear and asking you to kiss them before the job even starts. Run. Common sense, it's going to get worse. I'm not trying to say it's her fault, because she was probably in a really bad place mentally, and she was looking up to him and like, man, this guy's giving me a second chance. And that's completely what it wasn't that at all. They transferred her a couple times into the industry, into the business, other places. At this time, pretty much a lot of people knew what was going on. Vince has showed a lot of people, let's get through this. And basically, he's basically like, hey, my wife found out, you're going to have to go, you're going to have to resign. We'll figure out an NDA. And during this time, he's buying her gifts, cars, jewelry, clothes, gift cards, trips, private jets, flights, all that kind of stuff. So full access, right? Hooked up. And it got to a point where, he's like, my wife found out, the only way to do this, I have to let you go. I will give you pretty much some hush money. They agreed on about $3 billion. Vince made the payment in $1 million. And even after all this, she's still going over there to talk business stuff, and they're still hooking up with each other. It's like, come on, like you're in this deep already. You're saying you feel horrible about yourself, and then you keep doing this stuff with the guy. So he doesn't ever pay the full $3 million, which was for a businessman, that's really not smart on his end. If he probably paid her the $3 million, she would have gone away, maybe come out in the future, ask for more money, who knows? But he didn't fulfill the NDA. And so that's what's the problem now. Legal-wise, he broke all these things in the NDA and, on all these different things. That can translate into criminal charges too. Are they going to happen? We'll just have to see. I think Vince at his age, he's going to have a tough time health-wise going through all this mess too. Okay? So he was in the wrong. I think they were both in the wrong to a certain aspect. She was the victim. Yes, she was the victim, but she's a grown-up. She could have left any time. I'm not saying it's her fault, because when we're in really dark places, we do some things sometimes that it doesn't make much sense, right? So, my personal belief is that, even though a lot of this stuff was pretty sick and twisted, she's participating. She's agreeing on it. It's even talking about, that. She's even squirting during all this that's going on, like enjoying it maybe to a certain extent. I'm not really sure. I'm just trying to, picture what it sounds like. And then it got to a point where she wasn't comfortable with all these other guys, but she was still doing it because she needed money. I feel for people that are in those situations. I've been in hard places before. I had choices to do certain things for money that morally I wouldn't be okay with, and I didn't do that. There's other ways to get through hard times and make money, and maybe she wanted to live a certain type of lifestyle, but now she's claiming that she has PTSD. She doesn't leave her apartment. She doesn't eat. She's not healthy. She's scared of everything. She has all this trauma, and I'm sure a lot of that's true. But while you were getting paid and you have this job or whatever, you were unfortunately participating in all this consensually for the most part. In the reports, like I said, there is a part where she says she breaks down there during I think her in a three-way with him and another guy, and she breaks down and is crying and is like, understanding like, hey, I'm mentally not in a good place right now, but it's never too late to stop. She wanted money. She was thinking those dollar signs too, so she wanted money. And all these other, if she thinks she's the only girl, that's naive. There's a lot of other girls too along the years. You can look at Vince's past, certain things that come up. And there's a lot of girls that's been paid off, hush money to just, hey, here's your money, go away. There's a lot of girls I'm sure were completely okay with this all, as long as they were getting paid. When the money stops, that's when a lot of these girls go public and this. He should have just paid her the whole $3 million. The guy's a billionaire. That was a huge mistake. If that happened, none of this would probably be going on right now, okay? That's between, you and God, whatever you believe is right or wrong. And, I think this stuff was pretty twisted and sadistic. I think that's gross. I've even met women before, though, that wanted me to do absolutely insane things like, hey, could you get this little blade and cut me here and here while we're, getting it on or whatever. I'm like, no. I've met women that want to be degraded during sex. I did not participate at all. That terrified me. First of all, that terrified me. Like, she could just say I did this and I would go to jail. And other ways it terrified me was like, this is not going to turn me on. This is going to like freak me out and probably scar me if I'm actually getting a blade and cutting a girl while we're intimate together. That's just twisted. But there's a lot of girls out there that do like humiliation, torture, pain. They like that stuff. And obviously Vince was into that. That's something he's hugely into. And maybe this girl wasn't. She was just, just putting up with it for a job and for money, and maybe she thought she was going to get a lot more. Basically, she got a lot of money. Was it worth what she had to do? No, I don't think anywhere. No amount of money is worth going through all that and making. Do I believe she's depressed today? Yes. Do I believe that she feels horrible about herself? Yes. But you've got to think about this stuff, people, when you're doing the acts of consensual with this guy. Like I said, it sounded all consensual, except for maybe a time where she broke down in the middle of it because it was just way too much. She was complaining about she was always hurting down there because of multiple partners and he would name, it's like kind of like whatever, but he would name different, toys that were literally, this big. A black one would be after a black wrestler, and he would name them, and a white one would be after a white wrestler or something like that. So Vince was into some sort of racial thing that turned him on and he wasn't afraid. Like, he loved the control. Like, he was like saying, you can't go see him without me knowing. I need to know all the details. So control, power, narcissistic behavior, is a billionaire. When you deal with a lot of people and very, very high power people, they think they can buy anything, they can have anything, okay? In the end, it's all a mess, okay? Guys, let me know what you guys think about this whole thing. They asked Triple H the other day what he thought about this, which I thought was so silly because Triple H that's his father-in-law, okay? He's married to Vince's daughter, Stephanie McMahon. It's like his business now. Like he's not going to talk bad about his father-in-law. And so he was basically like, there's so much good going on right now. Let's focus on the positive in the industry, in the WWE or whatever. But, I think a lot more things are going to come out. I think a lot more women are going to come out. I think more stories are going to come out from the past. And I just think this is the beginning of this. I think a lot more is going to come out. Guys, comment below. Let me know what you think. And I'm going to try to start doing more videos here. I always say that, but TikTok limits me big time in what I can talk about. So this, I can talk longer on. Even if I get 200 views, 2,000 views, or 20,000 views, it's being viewed, and I appreciate that. Please subscribe to my channel. I'm probably going to start a small podcast eventually soon too. I still do this on my phone. I bought camera equipment. I just need to set it up. I've been meaning to for like months now. Been extremely busy. Comment below, guys. Let me know what you think about this whole situation. A lot of people haven't read the legal documents. I read all the legal documents. I understood what was going on with everything. A lot of people don't understand, and I would suggest at least read the text messages out there that are, you can just Google Vince McMahon leaked text messages. And I mean, he had even referees that were involved in stuff with her. And he was like showing tech teams. I'm like, hey, baby, I just showed all these guys, 12 guys. Think about all of them, with you. Next time, I want, somebody's thing down each one of your holes and just, buckets of, fluids running out. I mean, just very graphic stuff. And, he would use words like I love you and you're my girl, like certain stuff like that it messes with her head. He knew what he was doing. He was grooming her, and the whole thing is just messed up in every aspect. Let me know what you guys think below about this whole thing. I would suggest, not only watch my video, there's a lot of other good videos out there. Also explaining different things in detail, especially from attorneys. You're going to get different opinions out there. A lot of people I know are just saying, he's sick, he's terrible, he's sick. You got to understand, maybe so, but it was consensual. She didn't go to police back then. She didn't, go to an attorney back then. She was basically, her life was dependent on Vince. The doctors she was seeing, I mean, she was going to medical spas, getting her fillers, her Botox, whatever treatments she was getting, plastic surgeries, all under Vince's dime, by his doctor, getting worked on. I'm sure there was other instances too where I think she was like seeing the physical therapist and also sleeping with him. And it's just so messy, guys. It's messy. Just live a good life and make things simple. Some people's perversions out there get out of control. A lot of it's due to pornography. We've all watched it, right? We've all probably had issues at a certain time watching it. But is it healthy? No. That's where you get to this level where you've done so many things that nothing satisfies you anymore. You're into stuff like taking dumps on girls' heads and just the other guy that was there, I just don't know how he continued another hour and a half with her when she has someone else's feces all in her hair and face. Just gross. All right. Comment down below, guys. Thanks for viewing my video. Peace out and have an amazing day. Beautiful weekend.